Hello, Night Nation. I'm Trylko from the Sons of UCF, joined by Eric Lopez of the Black and Gold Banneret. Welcome to Around the Kingdom. Before I go to Elo, thoughts with everyone across the state of Florida as we all watch and wait for the hurricane. We wish you great safety. Elo, hello.
Hello, Trace. Well said. Coming up, UCF struggles in the swamp. Where does UCF football go from here? Can they kiss this season goodbye? And speaking of kissing controversy involving UCF football. We'll explain coming up on the fastest UCF show around the kingdom.
Before we get going with all of that, Elo, let us welcome in the third member of our team. He is Adam Eaton from the Sons of UCF. Keeps an eye on the clock, keeps us on our toes. Adam, hello.
Gentlemen, greetings. Another loss to talk about, which is not fun, but grateful for both of you for being here for Night Nation to get us through all these tough times.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. A little respite from everything going on around us. We appreciate you being with us for this half hour. Elo, UCF turned into Gator bait, a dismal performance in the swamp. Robert, 2 letters, 2 words, asked me, what was the final score again as he was working on something? I said 107-6, because that's how it felt, Elo. 24-13, your actual final. Elo, it was not good.
No, it wasn't. Florida took control of the game from the opening drive, had a touchdown. UCF got a good drive, settled for a field goal, but it was pretty much all Florida. I don't think at any point you felt UCF was in the game. And a Florida defense that has struggled all year was shut down this UCF running game and shut down UCF offensively in general. It's just very discouraging.
Yeah, and, you mentioned it right there, Florida opening drive, an 8-minute drive, 75 yards. They punch it in. And UCF settles for threes. You cannot beat a team when you're settling for threes and they're scoring touchdowns. And UCF not good in the red zone. And that is not a this season phenomenon. This has been going on longer than that. Something about the Gus Malzahn offense gets bogged down in the red zone.
Yeah, I mean, in the second half, you're going not at a very rapid pace for drives there. That was kind of bizarre. And I think the question, Trace, is does UCF have enough weapons? I don't think they have enough explosiveness on offense. Kobe Hudson shut down for a second game in a row. Who's else going to step? They try to get Randy Pittman involved. Did you call those plays to get Pittman some catches? I don't know what was all that came from all of a sudden. But where is the passing game big plays going to come from?
Not very creative, and you need something more from your quarterback than what we're seeing from KJ Jefferson. He's just not the real deal, right? I don't know. We were sold a bill of goods, and I think you can tell from head coach Gus Malzahn in his post-game comments and his Monday media availability, he doesn't have answers. They are stuck with someone that is not performing in this offense.
Struggling offense. That is the proper word there. So much for the dominant running game. They got to get back to running the football if they have a chance, because teams are definitely trying to target and take away the running game because they don't trust KJ Jefferson. And you just alluded to it. KJ Jefferson, are you calling him? Is it a done deal? Is he a bust?
Well, I'm asking you this, Elo, in response. At what point in the season are you what you are? And we've seen now a 5-game sample size. We talked about it when they rallied to beat TCU. That was a game that KJ Jefferson was brought in to win. He wasn't brought here as a free agent signee, a one-year wonder to beat Sam Houston in New Hampshire. And we heard a lot about how at Arkansas he went into the swamp and beat the Gators. Did not perform well. Not consistent. If you're going to shut down the running game and you don't have a deep ball threat, and Kobe Hudson was missing in action for much of that game, I am concerned. I don't see where this turnaround is coming, and you alluded to it off the top. It does start to feel like a lost season.
As someone who wrote a column saying KJ would make a big difference, he would be the perfect fit for this offense. I wasn't the only one, but I campaigned it. I have been stunned. It has not worked to this point. Sometimes you wonder, and this is when you get a player that only has 1 year, it may take him a while to be comfortable. The problem is by the time maybe he gets comfortable later in the year, it's too late. That's the risk and reward.
Yeah, well, I don't know that I have a great deal of compassion for UCF on this point. They have players on the roster that they've recruited, highly touted recruiting classes. They keep dipping into the portal. I understand you do that to fill some holes, but now when you're over-relying on the portal to what you just said, that's where you end up like this with players that might not be the right fit. You can't know that until the season plays out. We ended the show last week talking about UCF with a chance to tie the all-time series at 2 apiece. Now that's gone. They have the Gasparilla Bowl win. But any thought of being on par with a win over the Gators. This continues to be little brother, Gator Nation, very dismissive of UCF. It didn't feel like a lot of progress was made from 1999 or 2006 and other games in which UCF lost to the Gators.
Hey, we won that Gasparilla Bowl, though. No, doesn't matter. Yeah, look, I don't think Florida fans even cared about it. They're like, all right, cool, whatever. We won the game. They were kind of, it's like, it was bad because the problem is this is not a very good Florida team, and you lost to them. So now you got to wait.
This may be their last win.
Could be. I mean, they got Tennessee this weekend. So you're right. And it just wasn't competitive. It wasn't. And didn't you get a sense the whole week? There wasn't really that much like, oh, we're going to trash talk. It was almost like both sides were like, yeah, whatever. And yeah.
What'd you say? Get out of town game or something like that?
Yeah, get out of town. And right now we're out of town. So although many literally. But yeah, it's not good. UCF is not in the conversation with Florida's and the Miamis and the Florida States. And that's just the reality. That's just the truth. And it's going to take some time and some winning to be in that level where everybody respects each other. Otherwise, you're right. They're just going to look at you as an afterthought. And right now, after the last 2 weeks, UCF has now turned into kind of not really a factor nationally at this point.
Not at all.
No, not at all. And I'm just bummed out about it. It's just, and which is an interesting question. Is this loss to Florida the worst loss in the Gus era?
Well, so many contenders. First of all, the best win of the Gus Malzahn era at UCF, that list much shorter than the list of worst losses. I polled on it after the Colorado loss. Baylor, Colorado, Navy. I think you have to put up Florida. Now, for me, I was not as into the game as Night Nation was, but this was a very important game for Night Nation. And if you were going to lose Colorado, you needed to rebound and win. Like we talked about TCU, the reverse Baylor. Well, Florida win, we'd have looked a little past the Colorado loss. This is now back-to-back losses, embarrassing losses, beatdowns, not close, diminished the program. I would argue, maybe I'll poll on it again now and add Florida to the list. There'll be some recency bias, but certainly does feel like it when you consider what it meant to Night Nation.
You told me in August this game didn't matter as long as you won the Big 12 games.
Well, how's that going?
It's not over yet, and that's why I don't think you could put this on this list yet. What if they were to turn things around and win some games in the Big 12 and turn the season around, kind of like the 07 team did?
Remember here you go. You're UCF Mike with the 07 team.
The 07 team, they got destroyed in Tampa by South Florida. Oh, the season's over. What did they do? They ran the course and won the King bounced back and won this USA championship. So I can't go there yet. I'm not saying it's looking great, but it's not over yet. They could still turn around. It's not like the Big 12 is a powerhouse league right now either.
So it sounds like you're clearly still on the Gus bus, but a lot of people have stepped off the Gus bus. And I'm not sure, Elo, that anything, save what you're saying, that they go on a run, that they, put together a good season. And it's hard to see how that happens after the last two performances by this team. But I think there are a lot of people that are off the Gus bus, and I'm not sure how he gets them back.
By winning. Like, you have a good, strong finish this year.
He's 9-9 in his last 18 games, Elo.
Oh, that's not good right now. You're right. He's got to win some games. But winning solves everything. That gets the, if you beat, for example, remember last year, you beat Oklahoma State, all is forgiven all of a sudden. What if they beat a Utah? What if they beat an Arizona? All of a sudden, that turns around.
How do you feel about that? You want to go through the remaining schedule and let me know how many wins? Do you have this team bowl eligible at this point?
How many?
And would 6-6 satisfy this fan base after losses to Colorado and Florida?
It depends how many games we actually get to play. Can we just worry about playing the game first? Let's get that done. Here's the thing. He's probably what's going to happen? You're going to be upset. And all of a sudden, all the recruiting geeks and experts, oh, wow, what a great recruiting class. And they'll get psyched up again. We're all kind of sucked into it. We'll get sucked into a year. But I do agree. I think this is officially now the first time where Gus is facing adversity in this era, right? Because before it was, first year, you get a pass, this or that. You're right. This is probably the losing to Colorado the way you did, and losing at Florida. That's going to bring some negativity. But here's the reality, Trace. He's not going anywhere. So what? So it doesn't matter. Where's he going?
3-9? 3-9, not going anywhere?
Are you paying the $12 million?
I'm not saying I'm paying the $12
million. Write a check? Okay.
We got a billionaire who might want to pay it.
Well, I'm not even going to go there. I'm not even going to. There's some comments I can make, but I will not. But we'll see. Let's just let the season play out and see where it goes. Because again, if they could get this game in this weekend that we're at Cincinnati and win that can help them maybe turn the season around. But we don't know. A lot of uncertainty and certainly a lot of justified concern. For sure. I'm like I said. Now, that brings up the question. You mentioned it, 9-9 the last 18 games. Has the program stalled?
Anywhere on this campus, there's a banner that says the future of college football. Take it down. Take it down before the winds blow it away from the hurricane. It's nonsense. Let's stop talking like that. You need to deliver. They're starting to set the program back. Friend of the program, Christian Simmons on the Pegasus podcast, said that all of the gains of the last decade have been erased during this Gus Malzahn tenure. I think it's a bit extreme. I think it was a little knee-jerk reaction following the loss at Florida.
So 2017 never happened. Can we throw that back? Can we throw that pen away?
No, that happened. But the progress you've made now, this is not a relevant program on the national stage. That's for sure. And it's increasingly not relevant in the Big 12.
That's a different conversation. UCF as a power conference program, you're right. They have got to prove some things. But to erase everything, what is Florida State going to erase all their national championships because they're going to go like 2-10 this year? No,
they just put a plaque up at FSU mentioning they were in a bowl game and didn't give the score of that loss. So you can't erase things.
You can, but I'm not going to go there. I think there's concern. Stalling is a strong word. They're recruiting better. Again, I understand the frustration, but when you had the 2 seasons that you did, Trace, 27-18, you weren't going to stay up there. I don't care what you were going to do. You were destined for a bit of a decline, and I understand maybe not this far of a decline, but you did change conferences. You're no longer in the American. If this team was in the American still, I think they'd be at the top of the league.
Well, you're still on the Gus bus, but there's at least a half a dozen Knights that are not. They have entered, they've put on red shirts with intentions to enter the transfer portal. A little bit of an exodus from UCF, ELO, including a lot of hometown heroes like Colton Boomer.
Yeah, no surprise. I think welcome to college football 2024. I know there's going to be scrutiny about the UCF.
But isn't that a lot? Isn't that a lot, though? I mean, I'm not following all the other 130 programs, but that's a half a dozen in a couple of days.
Well, that's because we're paying attention to it. Like, who's paying attention to Iowa? They lost one of their position players, I believe. Things like that. Look, the majority of these players that are leaving weren't playing. So, and this is the thing. With the 4-game redshirt, why are you going to stick around if you're not playing? The 2 that were, Colton Boomer, I think there's a real track record there of a history there of, hey, disagreements, whatever. It's time to maybe get a new landscape. Townsend's the wacky one of that group, but this is college football 2024. Guys are going to leave after 4 games, and unless you change the rules, you're going to see more and more of this, I think, moving forward. And wait till the player that opts out of the playoff, Trace, okay, wait till that firestorm happens. It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
That fan base is going to lose their mind.
There's going to be a player that's going to forego the playoffs because they want to stay healthy for the draft. It's going to happen just like it did with the bowl games. Remember that when everybody freaked out when McCaffrey and Fournette skipped the bowl game? That's going to happen with this expanded playoff. But, whatever. People are upset. I understand. All right, so we're scheduled, as of this recording, Tuesday night, UCF Cincinnati, 3:30 on the Deuce. Here in Orlando. As of now, things could change. If you're able to follow, check your local news, sports, UCF.com for all the details. If this game gets played, let's just go ahead with that. Let's be optimistic. Is this a must-win?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Unequivocally. That would make them 4-2. You just said it. Winning solves some problems. It doesn't make up for the Colorado and Florida losses, but it is a conference game. They would move to 2-1 in conference play. And I'm not saying bowl eligibility is the goal, but at 4-2, maybe you feel a little bit better about a couple of wins in a harder second half of the season. You can't beat Cincinnati at home. No disrespect to the Bearcats, but you can't beat Cincinnati at home. You got to go on the road and a night game in Ames, Iowa a week later with still Arizona, West Virginia, Utah on the schedule. BYU undefeated? Stop. Absolutely must win.
Well, first of all, I would be ecstatic if we're playing the game, it's on schedule. That would be great news. I would take it right now. So I'll be happy.
Agreed.
All right, let's put that there. Hopefully that happens. Agreed. It's a must win. I cannot. You said it well. I mean, you lose this game, that's a 3-game losing streak. You're going to go to Iowa State, night game, primetime game there. Have fun in Ames, Iowa at night, Trace. Hopefully you get to go.
I'm looking forward to the environment.
Yes. And then you got a BYU team that's ranked that's going to come here. They're playing well. You're right. The season could get away from you very easily if you don't win this game with Cincinnati. And Cincinnati's moved the ball this year. It's not like UCF was fortunate to win last year at Cincinnati. It's not a case, but you're right. This is a must win. If you win this game, I think you'll feel better about yourself, and you can turn things around. But you wonder, Trace, how is this team going to respond if they do play, considering they're dealing with distractions like we all are with the storm? That's going to cause some havocs with their schedules. Nobody's feeling sorry for them. Let's make that clear, okay? But this is not a normal week for them.
Well, they plan to practice on Wednesday. How disruptive, but we're all dealing with the same uncertainty and the foreboding nature of the storm and watching it form in the Gulf and head this way. So they do as well, and a lot of them from the state of Florida and have family. So certainly a different mindset than Cincinnati players are facing. Must win, Elo, and we'll worry about how they put it together after they put it together. All right, time to bring back in Adam. How about a little lightness, a little silliness? Time for our silly game.
All right, let's get to the silly game. Before I do that, though, don't forget that we are brought to you by our good friends at the Cure Bowl, December 20th at Camping World Stadium. The matchup is Orlando versus Cantor. Make sure you get your tickets now. Go to curebowl.com if you want tickets. Festivities will be there. It's one of the best bowl games we have all year long. And again, you can join the home team and help us defeat cancer. Curebowl.com is how you can get tickets. All right, gentlemen, this week we're going to play a friendly game of charge on, charge off. I'll give you a statement. You say charge on if you agree with the statement, or charge off if you disagree with the statement. Elo, I'll start with you. In this new era of college football, roster construction and player recruitment is more important than ever, Elo. So here's my question for you. Gus Malzahn, the GM, is worse than Gus Malzahn, the coach. Charge on or charge off?
First of all, this is one of my favorite games. This game gets played on a podcast I tend to listen to.
It has different names depending on when you're listening.
Oh boy, I don't know. I think I'm going to charge off that because on paper people seem to like the players he gets as the GM, right? Like it's kind of like the GM picks the players and you put on the roster and everybody likes it, but it doesn't produce. They tend to blame the coach. Ask the Jets, for example. So I'm going to say charge off on that. I think Gus the GM, some would say, has done better than Gus the coach.
Yeah, well, Gus the GM, Gus the coach, it's too many hats to be worn. A year ago, he said, I can't wear all of these hats. I'm not going to call the plays too. And then he didn't like that. Now he wants to wear the hats. And now he says he's delegating. And it reminds me of a seminar I attended, a workshop put on by the UCF Alumni Association about multitasking, in which they said only 5% of people effectively multitask. And when you watch that, you wonder, are you one of those people that do it? Gus Malzahn is not effectively multitasking based on what we've seen. Exodus to the portal, kissing Bandit in the locker room, a lack of institutional control across the board. No, he's not doing a good job at any of these things.
That's a double charge off. Okay, I did not have that on my scorecard yet. All right, Elo, we'll teach Trace how to play the game. All right, Trace, I'll start this one with you then. Lee Hunter had some social media comments saying goodbye nicely to Brian Threats after he posted he was leaving UCF. So Trace, Lee Hunter's social media goodbye to Brian Threats was refreshing. Charge on or charge off?
Charge on, and I have a great deal of respect for Lee Hunter. I've had opportunity to talk with him, off mic, and he addressed the media on Monday, and he said, I spoke with him man to man, and I believe that he did. And he said his piece and his thoughts and wished him well in his next venture.
Good for him. Charge on. That's I like that move. I think I like the fact he came out and said what he said. Look, there was a little bit of UCF Cincinnati rivalry. Guy cares. I'm good with it. I defend Lee Hunter. Good for him.
All right, this one comes to you. Obviously, a lot of talk about NIL contracts and how some people are maybe not performing very well. So, Elo, NIL contracts should be performance-based. Charge on or charge off?
Oh, charge on, right? I mean, that's an easy answer. Charge on, right? If you perform well. However, the issue there, players will never agree to that because then the coaches have, what if a coach decides to sit a player out because they have maybe reaching a certain number? So you could open up a can of worms there if you go incentives there, because then now the parents will get mad at the coach. So I'm going to say coaches and players will say charge off on that.
Yeah, charge on, but it's not going to happen. The Wild West continues. It changes every week. And so great as that sounds, not going to happen.
All right, I'll sneak one more in real quickly, Trace. This goes to you. If UCF loses its next game, whenever that happens to be, by the way, UCF loses its next game, is it time for a quarterback change, Trace? Charge on or charge off?
Charge on. Why the hell not? Season's going to be lost at that point. Let's see the future of this team, not the one-season free agent signing.
Who is the future, though? I don't know if they have that, right? I mean,
I'm not sure that it's on the roster. The person's on the roster with the the inclination to dip into the portal for a quarterback, but they got to develop a quarterback.
I would wait till November and then you make the move if it's not working at that point. So I say charge off.
All right, thanks, gentlemen.
All right, thank you, Adam. All right, I alluded to it earlier. Kissing Bandit ELO video released showing UCF's wealthy billionaire donor Mike Rapoli hugging and kissing on the players right before they go out to face Colorado, and you know how that turned out. Reaction to this?
It's wacky, right? Because that was courtesy of the Cam Newton who had footage.
Why did he have unfettered access to the locker room?
He's a Heisman Trophy winner that played for the coach.
Friend of the Malzahns.
Very bizarre. This ain't 1984. I could see certain, Italian, different type of people that would be, acceptable maybe 30, 40 years ago. Not today. Not in that situation. Not great. Not good. Not a good.
Don't you want people just chomping at the bit to run out of that locker room in front of a packed house? And then you've got these uncomfortable moments. I mean, I know the spirit of what the guy's trying to get across and brotherhood and all of that, but the kind of speech that was shown, save that for team meetings during the week, not when they're getting ready to run out of the tunnel.
I agree. I will defend Mike on this. I think the guy generally cares. So I mean, you're investing millions of dollars. You don't care. You care. Sometimes when you care, you go a bit too far. And you don't realize that because you care that much. I'm not excusing it. I'm just seeing it because I've been there. I've been there where you're trying to care for people, you compliment other people, and they take it the wrong way. Now, this was not totally wrong, but I will defend him. I don't think this was malicious.
No, I don't think it was either, but you can't have it.
No, and you can't have them in the locker room. I mean, otherwise, why don't we just have Trace in the locker room for a baseball presser or basketball? What kind of speech would you give if you were in this right before basketball?
Nothing like that. Nothing.
What
like
if
that.
What if Johnny let you give a speech before the game in the locker?
Let's talk about that on the overtime podcast later.
Fair, very fair. We just got a topic out of it. I'm happy for you. Hey, another super idea. Let's make college football unwatchable and not fan friendly. Let's create a super league, just like soccer. Why do we have to be all like soccer, Trace, Mr. Soccer? Do you like this? You like this idea, probably, as a soccer guy.
No, these leagues need to go back to being regional, and eventually I can see where the football is doing its own deal, and every other sport is more regional in nature. But, the relegation concept would be interesting. And, if the SEC could pick again, which schools would they not have picked to be in the SEC? What I like about it, though, contradicting my earlier position about cartels, UCF is part of this matrix for the Super League.
So you're a fan. You're in. You're on board.
I'm all right because UCF's in it.
So this is called the Power 12 Conference, the College Student Football League, aiming to stabilize the sport and addressing media rights. Oh, notice how they bring it up: revenue sharing, collective bargaining. Yes. How do they decide on the 72 teams? I think that's hilarious to me.
UCF's in the mix, according to the diagram of this.
Yeah, they would be in the Southeast with Florida, Florida State, Georgia, Georgia Tech, Miami, UCF.
I love it.
A lot of losses. Yeah, you like losses, don't you?
Yeah, I don't know how many current Big 12 schools you mentioned in that list. I don't think any. All right, what's standing out to you, Elo, as we speed things up in this last couple?
that Oklahoma State's not very good. They lost for a third straight game. This looks like a down year for Oak State as far as the Big 12 title race. That's significant there as West Virginia beat them. And again, I think this
Still
league
wide
is
open, right?
It's so wide open, which is why I'm not ready to get off the bus and call this season over. I know it looks bleak, but if UCF can get some confidence back and get on track, I think they could still make a run at this. It's there for the taking. But one thing I do know, this is a one-bid league in the playoff. I think you would agree.
Ooh, one bid.
Where's the second team coming from?
Well,
is Cam Rising ever going to play again?
I don't know. He's week to week. We're talking about injury reports. They're always very vague. You don't know what to do with that Utah pick every week.
Yeah, I couldn't even tell you who I would pick because it's a team I like. Big game this weekend, Kansas State, Colorado. I think the winner of that game takes a big step to the Big 12 title game. If Colorado were to beat Kansas State, then you got to start thinking Colorado is a serious contender to get to the Big 12 title game. In Arlington, where Deion Sanders may have called home at one point when he wore the star with the Cowboys. We'll let the Cowboy thing confirm that later on in the program on that. Hey, it's draft time, Trace.
I'm on the clock.
Well, this is interesting. Yeah, you kind of need this game to get played, don't you?
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
What happens if it doesn't? You don't get a do-over, do you? Or do you? What happened? We didn't discuss
figure it out as a percentage basis of games picked?
Yeah, we need to discuss this at overtime. That's an overtime topic. We may have to discuss this at overtime.
All right. Well, let's talk about props. Remember, what was it? Over under on turnovers, Elo 2.5. That seems so low. I even joked. What is that? Per quarter, per team?
Yep.
Well, they end up with that terrible KJ Jefferson late game, just threw the ball up into center field interception. One, Elo, UCF not forcing any turnovers in that game. All right, what are we doing this week?
What are we doing? Well, I don't know. What sports are we playing? That could be maybe the tricky part there on that front. Good champ. I guess what we could do, give me the over-under. How about this? Over-under on total passing yards by KJ Jefferson. We'll go
174.
174. You're going to go over under. We're going to go over under 175. I'll give you $1.75.
Under.
I'm going to go over. I'll give you a bonus.
Because they're going to run the ball all over Cincinnati. That's why.
Over under 1.5 field goals. Grant Reddick.
Over. Stalled in the red zone.
I'll go under. All right, we made up with 2 props on the fly, folks. There you go. That's very good. By the way, how's your boy Pittman doing?
He's doing good, right? He's got 12 through 5 games, on a pace for 28. Looking good.
Looking very good. You know who's not looking good, Trace? The Olympic sports. Men's soccer lost to West Virginia, that was top 10 ranked team. Women's soccer lost to ranked West Virginia team, both in Morgantown. Not good. Volleyball swept at Cincinnati. Had their games. I'm going to defer to you. You're the former news anchor, news reporter on a TV station. There's a lot of rescheduling going on with these Olympic sports, which is wild.
Yeah, I just know that women's soccer is playing a game against Arizona and Houston. So it's all been rescheduled. Not a good weekend for these sports. They got to rebound and under some uncertain conditions, uncertain scheduling. Taking it on the chin, fall off to a rough start all across UCF. All right, time to bring back in Adam for some knowledge. What did we get right? What did we get wrong?
All right, the Gators, guys, are 101 in the nation in rushing defense, so not good for UCF's rushing attack. You guys are talking about still believing in Gus. Here's some fun facts. In Gus's career, the most number of games he's won in a row is 9. In 2013 at Auburn, that's the year, obviously, they went to the national championship game. At UCF, the most number of games he's won in a row is 4 in the 2022 season. We talked about benching KJ Jefferson, who's the future. A lot of people think E.J. Colson, freshman quarterback, could be that guy, so keep an eye there. Mike Rapoli did post a reply on Twitter with a full video and a rather lengthy description of his account of the event, so I encourage everyone to check that out if you want more details on that. And not done with super teams yet. Ross Dellinger from Yahoo Today reported that another super league is potentially forming. This one backed by Disney executives and $9 billion in private equity money, would include 70 teams across the 4 major power conferences with relegation and all the such in between. And these 70 teams would not play any FBS or Power 5 or Group of 5 schools, excuse me. So it would be a little bit of a different league than we see today, gentlemen.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah.
All right. One more thing before we go. Simply this. Night Nation, be safe out there. Thanks for being with us for this week's Around the Kingdom. On behalf of Eric Lopez and Adam Eaton, I'm Trace Trylko. Go Knights!